Okay, here we go. I was banging this too hard about that. Everybody hear that? All right. I call this June 2nd meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals to order at 7:03 p.m. Roll call.
All right. Board member Albers,
Present.
board member Hickey, board member Auerbach,
Present.
board member Roach,
Present.
board member Dunwoody. All right, we have a quorum.
Excellent. Okay. Next item of business is approval of the agenda from our for tonight, for June 2nd, 2025.
I move to accept the last minutes.
Oh, this is the agenda.
Oh, agenda, I'm sorry.
Support. All right. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. Okay, on to approval of the minutes from January 27th, 2025.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. Motion carries.
All right. The next item, the public comments. These are just for like general public comments. There will be a public comment for the public hearing for 431 Hawkins. It's just like in the bylaws, like you have, the general public.
So this is just the general public.
Yeah.
Nothing related to the ordinance.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Okay. Well, now is the time if anyone has any public comments for.
We'll need an open.
Oh, we need to open it up or
Okay.
seek a motion to open public comment.
Motion to open the meeting for public comment.
I second.
All those in support?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none? Okay, motion carries to open the meeting for public comment.
Nobody has their hand up in Zoom.
Somebody has their hand up in Zoom? Anyone in the audience just here for general public comment? Excellent. Okay. Well, we'll see. I'll seek a motion to close
Oh.
public comment.
Motion to close.
I second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Okay, just real quick, I always like to do, just say a little bit about the purpose of these meetings. So we do have one variance on the agenda tonight. And for those of you in the audience today or listening on Zoom who have not attended a zoning board of appeals meeting before today, you should be aware that when requesting a variance, what you are asking the zoning board of appeals to do is to make an exception to the law so that you can do what your neighbors are not allowed to. There are standards that have to be met. This board did not write those standards. They were written by city council, but it is our job to interpret those standards. They are strict, and oftentimes we have to turn down requests. If this is the case, please don't take it personally. Okay. Old business.
Nothing on old business.
Seeing none?
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. New business. So today we do have a public hearing for 431 Hawkins, the electric message board variance application.
Yeah, so I will go ahead and give a brief presentation. Ultimately, at 531 Hawkins, the applicant is requesting.
Real quick, yeah, it's 431, right? I just want to make sure we have.
Oh yes, 431. My
Okay.
apologies. At 431 Hawkins, the applicant is requesting an electronic message board, which is presently not permitted in the zoning district where this church is. They are located in the R1, which does not permit EMBs for either residential or non-residential uses. Kind of going over, they applied for the variance on March 19th, 2025, and they're requesting a variance from section 122-422 D26. Ultimately, the 431 Hawkins, it's a 1.76 acre parcel on the east side of Hawkins Street, south of West Michigan Avenue and North Harriet Street. It's currently occupied by Metropolitan Memorial Baptist Church. And again, they're requesting an EMB. Here is the site location. And then here are some images taken. I believe this was back in March when they were taken. The proposal, like the location of the EMB is in a very similar location to where the present sign is now. The surrounding land uses are all R1 and they're all single family residential with the exception to the west where there's another religious institution. So laid out here in section 122, 422, it shows that for non-residential uses, that electronic message boards are not permitted. And then kind of going over the history of the electronic message board ordinance, the Zoning Board of Appeals, they reviewed a variance request back on December 6th of 2023 for an EMB sign variance that was applied for by the Second Baptist Church of Ypsilanti. The ZBA did not find that the variance met the standards for practical difficulty and thus denied the request. Separate from or as part of their finding, the ZBA, they recognized that there are many conditions that would likely, all right, hold on. The ZBA was also recognized that if approved, many conditions would likely be placed on the sign to prevent a nuisance. And there's just a quote, I believe that's from Georgina. And ultimately, the Zoning Board of Appeals recommended a motion or provided a recommendation motion to the Planning Commission to review the EMB sign prohibition. And at the December 20th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting, staff introduced this item. On January 17th, 2024, staff and Planning Commission engaged in a policy and discussed how EMBs would be potentially regulated. They considered, location, sign type, message change, timeframes, animation, lighting, color maximum area, time of day permitted, and malfunction mitigation. The Planning Commission was highly concerned about EMBs becoming a nuisance and was intentional regarding where these signs were permitted. The commission felt that EMBs would be inappropriate in the R1 zoning district for both residential and non-residential uses, hence why they decided to prohibit them in that district. A public hearing on the amendment was held during the March meeting, and the Planning Commission recommended adoption to City Council and unanimously. It then went to City Council on May 14th, where it was tabled, and that was because they wanted us to review the size limitations for EMBs. At the May 15th meeting, the Planning Commission then directed staff to compose a memorandum informing the City Council of their intention to thoroughly reassess the size requirements for EMBs. And the main reason why they kind of came up is the Second Baptist Church mentioned, well, in the core neighborhood zoning district where we're located, a freestanding sign had a maximum square footage of 16 square feet. 16 square feet. And so with the proposed language that had EMBs could not be more than 50% of the total sign maximum, that meant that they would only have an 8 square foot sign. And so then City Council was concerned about that. And then we ultimately ended up raising the permanent freestanding size maximum or sign size maximum to 36 square feet. The Planning Commission then held another public hearing, and then City Council would end up adopting language which went into effect on November 8th of 2024. Regarding the standards for variances, there are 6, which I can go over my comments as well if you would like me with regards to those variants. Okay.
Yeah, please.
So for the first standard, it says that literal enforcement of this chapter will pose practical difficulties. And it kind of goes over, what defines those practical difficulties. And I mentioned that the applicant notes that that Ypsilanti's R1 zoning district, which is designed for low-density single-family neighborhoods, churches are permitted as related neighborhood-centric facilities. Other churches in the city have and are allowed electronic message boards. The proposed sign for the church meets the sign ordinance. They state that not being allowed to have an electronic message board hinders the church from getting its message out and to grow its parish, as well as informing its parish and surrounding neighborhood of church events. So my comment is that the zoning ordinance prohibits EMBs in the R1 zoning district that we've gone over before, and that I personally do not find that literal enforcement of this chapter will pose practical difficulties to the applicant because of special conditions or circumstances which are unique to the specific property, such as exceptional shallowness or shape of the property, exceptional topographic conditions, extraordinary situations of a building or structure, use or development of an adjacent property, et cetera, et cetera. So going on to the next standard, the applicant notes that allowing the church to have an electronic message center would not give the church any special privilege. Most other properties in the R1 district are low-density, single-family neighborhoods. There aren't many churches in the R1 zoning district. And to that, other churches in the R1 zoning district are not permitted to have an EMB, and staff believes that granting this variance would instate special privileges to the property. And then the next one is that the alleged practical difficulties on which the variance request is based have not been created by any person presently having an interest in this property. The applicant notes in their application that they have not created any practical difficulties preventing them from having an EMB. Staff agrees with the applicant's note. The applicant did not take part in the ordinance writing process, notably. In regards to standard 4, the applicant notes that the church will comply with 122.665C, which lays out the standards and regulations for EMBs. And then, I commented that the Planning Commission was intentional about where EMBs are permitted. EMBs are not permitted in the R1 zoning district because the Planning Commission was concerned that they may become a nuisance. Following standard 5, the applicant notes that a substantial justice will not be done with the allowance of this variance. Staff does not see how the allowance of this variance will result in substantial justice being done. Considering the public benefits intended to be secured by this chapter, there are no individual hardships that will be suffered by a failure of the Zoning Board of Appeals to grant the variance. And then the final standard, the applicant notes that this variance request is to allow the church to have an EMB like other churches outside of the R1 zoning district. And I mentioned that the zoning district is clear. EMBs are not permitted in the R1 zoning district. Staff does not see how the granting of this variance provides a reasonable use of land, building, or structures as the church is permitted to have signage. And so, these are like the two motions. I've found that I was able to provide a recommendation for, I provided the starting of an approval of conditions, and then I also provided a full motion for the denial. Ultimately, as the Zoning Board of Appeals, it's not really staff's determination to recommend what the Zoning Board of Appeals should do. But ultimately, I was having a really hard time within the ordinance determining how to make an approval or how to recommend an approval of condition motion. So do you guys have any questions for me?
No, just correct me if I'm wrong, but so Planning Commission ultimately, they decided to continue with EMBs being not permitted in R1,
Yes.
but they did make some changes on the size of signs. Okay.
Yes.
In areas where they are permitted.
Yes.
Okay. Good to know. Oh, sure. I'm so sorry. I can't speak into a mic very well. Can you hear me better now? I was just clarifying the steps that Planning Commission took after the last variance we heard, where they reviewed protocol for, the possibility of making approvals in R1 for the EMBs, ultimately deciding not to, but they did vote to change the size requirement or how big they could be in areas where they are permitted. That's just the correct thing I want to make. We'll open it up for public comment in just a minute, but thank you. I absolutely, and if anyone can't hear me, just let me know. All right, good. just at any point today. Any other questions?
Not for me.
Okay. Well, we do the applicant first, then public comment. Okay. At this point, if the applicant would like to step forward and speak on behalf of the variance, let us know. And then please state name and address for the record. And also, after this point in time, we may have questions for you as well that we may ask you along the way for clarity, if that's okay with you.
Very good.
Excellent.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Gary Smith. I currently reside at 324 Hillcrest Boulevard, Ypsilanti. I am currently a member in Metropolitan Memorial Baptist Church, where I am a trustee at this church. I initiated this process given the fact that we hired a young pastor that started last July. Okay. And with COVID, our numbers went way down. We averaged 34 to 35 members a Sunday. With a young pastor coming in, our membership has grown exponentially. We're averaging on anywhere between 75 to 90 members a Sunday. Moving our church from the past into the future, electronic messaging board would be essential. Carrying messages for the community, for other entities within the community like Focus Hope, other churches that we fellowship with, carrying the messages out of events that would bring people out and would also increase our membership. Okay, as you can see behind me, we have the mature members of Metropolitan Memorial Baptist Church, including myself. Okay, we want to take the approach, or we're taking the approach, to move our church into the 21st century so our younger generation will be well equipped to carry on what has already been laid. Okay. Working with Johnson Sign, which is a local business here in Ypsilanti. Jim and I, Mr. Nistro, we know that the sign will comply with all district area and height regeneration, and EMC will not exceed 50% of the allowable sign area. We know that no more than one EMC sign will be located on this lot. We also know that change message shall not occur more than once every 2 minutes. The lights will never blink or flash, and change message will be an instantaneous change. Illumination from the EMC sign will not exceed 0.3 foot candles when measured at the property line of subject lot. And messages will be monochrome, text and electronic display areas will be black. The sign will not be illuminated between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. And the sign will be programmed to go dark in the event of a malfunction. We have here our media coordinator, Dr. Renee Hampton. She is present. She is also associate pastor or assistant pastor number 3. In the absence of our pastor, Pastor Carnell Richardson, we have assistant pastor number 1 here. Assistant pastor number 2 is ill. And we have here our chairman of our deacon board, co-chairs of the deacon board. Chairman is Deacon Eddie Phillips, co-chair, Deaconess Charlotte Herndon, and Deacon John Cupid. Also have here our church administrator, who is also trustee, Mr. Tyrone Hampton, okay? And last but not least, we have all the rest of those that were willing to come out this evening. We want this sign, okay? We really want this sign to assist our pastor, assist our church, and assist our young people coming up behind us. We owe it to them to prepare our church for the future. And we hope and pray that you will understand this need. Thank you.
Thank you. We can have others. We can have others speak on behalf of the variance, right? Like there's, so I see, presumably you designed the sign. Is there anything you want to say about the project for us, please?
Good evening.
I forgot your name from
Oh,
earlier.
it's okay. Good evening, Jim Neestroy, Johnson Signs. So with this electronic message center, it comes with what we call 4G communication. So it allows the church to communicate with the sign cellular. So they can do it from a laptop as long as they have internet connection, cell phone, tablet, things like that. The sign also is set up to be programmed to turn on and turn off at suggested time between shutting off at 9 p.m. and turning back on at 6 p.m. or even we can adjust those hours accordingly. It also allows them to set the amount of time the message changes. So the restriction is 2 minutes. They can adjust that and keep that any message that's on that sign at 2 minutes. So, and again, it's red copy, black background. So within the ordinance. So, yep.
All right, thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Before we move on to public comment, does anyone have any questions for the applicant?
I don't.
Tom, no questions? Okay.
Motion to open for public comment.
I think we can open to a yeah. So we have a motion?
I have a motion.
Support.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries to open the meeting for public comment. So just a couple of ground rules. Please state your name and address for the record, and please limit all comments to a maximum of 3 to 5 minutes. You got it.
My name is Pat Horn McGee. I'm a former member of this board. I'm also a resident, a lifelong resident of the very neighborhood you speak of, and a member of this church. And I am very much interested in this sign being there. I have no objection as a resident of the neighborhood for a few years. And I think that we are well equipped to perform all of the things that are required in this variance application, and look forward to doing that, as well as the results that will come from it. As I said, I'm a resident of the neighborhood. I'm a former ZBA member and and a member of the church, and we're very anxious to do this. So I appreciate your positive and affirmative vote for the variance, and appreciate the effort that's gone into looking into it. Thank you very much.
Have you thought about coming out of retirement to rejoin the board?
You know, I've been asked.
Thank you so much for your comment. We really appreciate it. Welcome.
Afternoon. Good evening. Let me say, we didn't hit that point. Let me say it's an honor to be before you on behalf of, let me say, as a supporter of Metropolitan's effort. And let me just say, first of all, to you, Chair and the members of the commission, you have an excellent staff that service you, and a very detailed person. Though I lost a few hairs in the discussion, but I'd survived. Thank you, Josh, for what you've done and working with us collectively to get to this point. Let me just add to the fact that I'm fortunate to be a part of Ypsilanti. I was born here some years ago. It's only been a few years, and I had the pleasure of serving on this city council for 6 years of my life. And fortunate, and let me say, I'm pleased to see such a professional group here gathered tonight in this appeal process. I just want to just state a few things. First of all, in talking to the residents up and down Hawkins Street in the surrounding area, no one had a concern about this lighting. So let me, first of all, point that out. And all of them are willing to come. We did not want you to be here all night, but we can grant you that privilege and be here next meeting. I didn't think you wanted to hear from all those speakers because most of them was raised in that community and raised in that area. And of course, I came off the South Side. I was born on Jefferson Street and raised on Monroe Street. And until Irving knew I had a plan to relocate us, I would have remained there. But I'm here to join in the appeal. Unfortunately, I don't want to share the history of the Planning Commission or how the legislative bodies work in terms of creating plans and designs for communities. But certainly this church was here way before this rezoning process and many other rezoning process before. And I do remember the deliberation of making South End R1, and people had concerns then about it. Unfortunately, the churches did not realize they would be part of that rezoning. Many times they think they're removed from rezoning because they're already present. I kind of shared that with Josh. No way did they ever thought that they could not add on to their church or create a handicap accessibility or change their lighting or their parking lot. They thought they were removed, and quite naturally, many times they were. Unfortunately, they fall under R1 by not really being properly notified. I'm sure they would have stacked a meeting like all the other churches in the neighborhood to make sure that they have a voice in terms of the rapid changes of technology. Who would have thought we'd have had signage today? I remember hearing signs 50 years ago, and certainly I don't think they ever thought, and that's what Johnson brought out, would have ever thought that we'd be in the modern technology of communicating. Neither we thought we'd have a cell phone in our pocket tonight that could call mother all the way in Europe. So changes happen. And unfortunately, this change, there was not notification of this congregation, but many other congregations in the community. And I think, as Gary already indicated, that they're making out a pleas to people to attend the church, as well as various events and activities, even not church related, but community and civic engagements that they host at their particular place of worship. I would ask you to consider the fact that they were not notified of the changes. They were not aware of the change of the process of R1, thinking it would never affect the church. Because when you hear about rezoning affecting from R2 or B2 to R1, no church ever think they are considered in that deliberation. So being fair to you, you do not make the planning rules. The Planning Commission makes that decision. And unfortunately, their voices at the council should have been communicating with the Planning Commission. So I don't fault you all, and I don't really fault the commission. Those local representatives should be voicing the concerns of those many churches that exist on the south end of town to make sure that it was inclusive. That would not affect their zoning, neither would it affect their signage. And unfortunately, that has occurred. So I would hope that you, if you need us to, and you don't make a point to the decision to rise tonight, to be in favor of this movement, that you allow those local citizens on the south end of town, particularly those on Hawkins Street and Wharton Street and Frederick Street, to voice their concern of support. And I'm sure that you would get about 100% participation from them who voicing their concerns, who drive by this particular corridor every day and every morning to reflect their support, not only for the particular church, what they all consider a community church, to serve the whole community. And I don't mean just South End, but the greater Washington County community for many of their events and activities would be in support of this movement. And I think they would voice that lights would not make a difference in them. So I appreciate you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak for you. And I'd hope if you need their input, I would hope you allow that to occur and allow them to come to the next meeting if you're not passing it tonight. And definitely we're here hoping that you pass it tonight. Thank you for your time, Chair and members of the commission.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Did we get your name at the Ronnie? Okay.
pride,
Yeah.
a birth child of the city.
Thank you, Ronnie. Anyone else? There's a big crowd. We want to hear from you.
Tyrone Hampton, 4706 Sycamore Drive, Ypsilanti, Michigan, which is not far from here. Several things were said prior to me coming, and I've been working as a quote unquote church administrator under the new pastor with the change of the name, but I have been financially involved with the church for numerous years in terms of taking care of their books and things like that. As I have reviewed everything, and especially where the laws are concerned, and when you say R1 in zoning, not saying that you do that, but there should be something in there that codifies an exemption for churches because it is different than residential. And in doing so, I will bring back something several years ago and just share a little information. Several years ago, when my wife and I married in the middle 80s, she was entrenched in technology. And she said, Tyrone, you need to get into computers. In other words, change the technology. And so I put my hand in my pocket and I pulled out my TI, Texas Instrument, and I said, this is the only computer I need. 2 weeks later, I went to Radio Shack, got a Tandy 1000. I enrolled at Washtenaw Community College and took every computer course that they had, computer design and everything in programming. Worked for Washtenaw County for several years, a veteran also. And in doing so, and I'm saying it this way, technology has changed everything that we do, including this guy, and I'm a little afraid of him, AI, because who knows what's going to happen with that. But by this technology coming to that community area, which used to be named Ypsilanti Community Baptist Church when it first started, and it has metamorphosized to where it is now, Metropolitan Memorial Baptist Church, as of today. However, it is for our community. It is for those who take the shortcut to go from Michigan Ave to the expressway and they go down Hawkins Street instead of 1st or 2nd Ave. Or for those who are coming off of the expressway to take the shortcut to get to Michigan Ave, but go into the public sector to head west, going the other way. Their way, and I have driven down there, I don't know if you have, but when you drive by, you don't even know the name of the church unless you really stop and look. This helps people passing by to not only see it, and it's not a nuisance, and I don't want to get in what they're doing in the township, but they're blasts in the township. So eventually this will change. We're just hoping that we're the beginning of the change. And so I'm saying it that way and say, the more things change, the more they remain the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you so much for considering and approving this.
You got to speak it into existence.
I'm just going to say that. I want to let you know that as a church, we have a passion for the community. And when I look coming in and out of the church all the time, and I look down the street, we have youth that walk up and down the street all the time. We would like for them to have more of a interest and be involved. And with the lighting, that will bring their attention. As you know, young people like technology, and that will bring more attention to them. And we'd like to have them involved more and interested in being a part of our church and keeping them off the street. So if we have that sign, the signage and the lighting, that will attract them more. The other thing that I want to say is that the way that the church is located, we have empty lots on both sides because we have parking lots on both sides. And so the lighting of the signage is not going to affect any housing that's in the parameters of the church. And so I wanted to bring that up as well. Also, with the signage being horizontal and not vertical, it's not going to flash in the neighbors' homes across the street as well, because it's not facing that way. That's what the proposal is for. So we thank you for your approval.
What's your name?
Oh, yeah, we didn't get your name. I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry, Renee Hampton, 4706 Sycamore Drive.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Calvin Cupid. I reside at 230 Carriageway. And one thing I would like to say, I've been a member of Metropolitan for right around 60 years. I was married at Metropolitan. My wife and I have been married a grand total of 54 years. So we've been at Metropolitan all that time. So I speak as a member as well as a person that take over some of the things at Metropolitan. And we need to step up. And we need you people to step up with us. We'd appreciate it because we've got a lot of things that we want to do. And we've got a lot of things that are out there that I see going on. For instance, you got a place where they sell the marijuana at right on the corner. We see that. On that same street, myself, I have seen things go on. But we still let that place stay open. We let the light stay on there. At Metropolitan, we're trying to get the people together to come on up. You don't need drugs to make your life. You need religion. You need the thought of God being in your heart. So please, if you have it in your heart, please grant us the will to be able to put up that sign. And we definitely would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to come up? And I'll apologize in advance if it looks like my attention is taken away from some of the speakers. It's
My name-
because I'm taking notes.
My name is Jimmy F. Moore, 4065 Test Lane, Ypsilanti. I happen to be the first Black police chief in Ypsilanti. I'm a retiree of Ypsilanti. Information is a great thing. I see information and boards flashing that says, come and get your cannabis. I see boards flashing that says, come and get your wine. But I don't see any boards flashing that says, come and see the Lord. So I would appreciate that a positive vote for this sign will come from this body. Thank you.
Thank you. I saw a hand raised. Did you want to come up? Would anyone else like to come up and say, speak on behalf of the variance request? Okay, good. Just name and address for the record, please.
My name is Edith Chance. Address is 3121 Brayburn Circle, Ann Arbor, 48108. I was baptized in Metropolitan when I was 9 years old and moved to Flint, moved back and joined Metro, rejoined. Part of what our pastor likes to do is community support. He's really pushed us to include, what's the one on here? Hope. Yeah, the Hope Clinic. We are involved with the Park Ridge, thank you, Pam, Park Ridge Community Center. Also, we are trying not to interfere with other people's events. We are trying to combine with them. So that would be also something that would be able to be on our board, on our signage. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll allow it. Absolutely.
I just wanted to say the vision for our church that we have adopted speaks of loving Christ, serving Christ, loving people, and building community. That's our vision. Okay.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to come up? Got one?
Yes.
I want you to know I live in the neighborhood. Canvass the neighborhood, and I have not seen anything as to whether people have opposition or anything to it. But I certainly don't, as a resident of the neighborhood. I can throw a rock from the church to my house.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jamie Smith, and I'm the first assistant to the pastor at Proud Memorial Baptist Church. He would be here tonight, except for he had a prior commitment. He was scheduled and was hoping to come for the last meeting, but that one was canceled, so he couldn't be here. But I do want to say this. Think about this, what we're asking you to do, as if it was you and you wanted it done. It was something for your community, something for your children, something for your church. We are in the 21st century. And I understand that the laws were made back some time, but to bring us up to code, to me, those laws need to be reviewed to where we are today, because we are truly in the 21st century with different things happening and AI everywhere. So please think about it as if it was you and you really wanted it done. And simply because of all the things that have been mentioned, and because of all the things that we're looking forward to do in the future for the community and for bringing others into Christ. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amen.
I forgot to ask, is there anyone who has raised their hand virtually? No. Okay. Well, let's see. Is there anyone else who wants to come up and speak? I wanted to get everyone who's here in public or physically here to comment first, and then if we have something that came in, yeah, we can read that if there are no other comments. Oh, we got one more. Please.
Evening. My name is Nabrenda Burrows Van Pelt, 3154 Ann Arbor Saline Road. And just a real quick comment. If we can allow marijuana stores next to a church, certainly we should be able to allow a sign for God.
Thank you. Anyone else? This is the most public comment we've ever had. Thank you. Okay, Josh, did you want to read what came in?
So I got an email on Wednesday, May 21st, from Henry, I guess name is pronounced Lemley. And he said he is a resident of 447 Hawkins Street, and he said that this email is in response to the public hearing notice sent to the residents of 447 Hawkins Street, as I may not show up to the hearing on Monday, June 2nd. I wanted to voice my concerns via email. This residence does not support the Metropolitan Memorial Baptist Church in securing a variance in the R1 zoning district 122-422 D2 for electronic signage, with reasons including light pollution. And that ends the comment. 447 Hawkins.
Thank you. Okay, you want another round? Is that what you're asking for? Yeah, I'll allow it. Come on up.
I just want to say in response to the concern is that lighting, we would follow all of the guidelines. Lighting would not be on past 9 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
I will be the one setting the settings for that.
Mhm.
And so I am cognizant of the fact that we are not to have lighting after a certain time. And if it has to be earlier, we can do that as well.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Well, how about this? We can, if you have any more to say on behalf of the plan or anything like that, let's close the public comment first and then have you come up.
I motion to close public comment.
Support.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. Okay, motion carries. So it looked like you wanted to say something else about the plan?
Jim Neestroy, Johnson Sign Company, Ypsilanti, Michigan. The one thing I do want to touch base on is because there's 0.3 candles, that's below the light pollution, even if it's monitored and metered from the sidewalk property line. So, and again, the sign can be shut off at 9 p.m. So therefore, there's no interfering with any neighbors or anything like that in regards to light pollution. So,
Thank you.
yep.
Okay. So any comments from our fellow board members?
Tough one. Because
If you can speak into the mic, that way they can hear you better.
so the ordinance doesn't have anything about the hours of signage, but they can have them in the zone.
It does. 122.665C specifically. Let me see if it will pull up if I change the. Yes.
Is it in this report?
122.665. C. Or we'll just scroll through until we get there. So it mentions that electronic message boards shall not be illuminated between the hours of 9 p.m. and 6 a.m.
So, when we sit in this room and we have multiple requests for variances in the same neighborhood for the same reason, it starts to make me wonder, and obviously we've already sent this to Planning Commission to have them discuss, and I respect their determination. But it kind of begs the question, like what are these signs, the same level of nuisance as they were when this ordinance was first conceived or written or codified into law? Because it really does, it hamstrings a bit of our ability to kind of meet changing needs, but also it puts us in a weird position to have to kind of break precedent. Because as you would know, if we grant a variance like this, that opens the door to just any sort of sign in these R1 neighborhoods. So I understand the spirit of the rule. These are designed to be predominantly residential areas. But I just start to wonder, how much time and effort we spend to review things that are now coming up on multiple occasions. And I don't know if I can do anything with that statement or where I'm going with it necessarily, just kind of a point to something that I think is important to note is that I don't think this is the last time we'll hear something like this. And so, yeah, just kind of my thought on that. And is there anything, absent of, outside of this conversation, because I know that there's a ruling we need to make, what, Josh, I guess this is a question you may not be able to answer today, but what are the things that can be done sort of beyond now to respond to now sort of multiple requests for EMBs in R1 neighborhoods?
Yeah, I mean, I ultimately I would say this is the first since I've been the planner, which is January 2024. This is the first EMB request I've gotten for the R1 zoning district. When you pull up a map of the city's zoning ordinance, where Second Baptist Church, who ultimately kickstarted this conversation, they're located in the core neighborhood mid-zoning district, which is this orange color, essentially. As you can see, the R1 zoning district itself makes up roughly 25-ish to 30. R1 is yellow. Yes. So the R1 zoning district does make up about 25%, give or take, of the city. That's based purely on visual observation. And so when kind of considering, like the applicant is right, like there aren't a ton of churches in the R1 zoning district because it is predominantly a single family zoning district. And it does allow, other types of uses, but for the most part, strictly a residential single family district. Um, yeah, but I mean, moral of the story, like we probably will get other requests in the future. It might not hurt to uh, make another resolution to the Planning Commission to reconsider the ordinance again. I mean, I know they spent a lot of time last year looking at this ordinance, but ultimately, with the restrictions that we have, and the city is right now working on a dark sky compliant ordinance, and we're going to be talking about sign illumination. So we already are kind of opening up. We already have opened up that ordinance in relation to signage again. So it might not hurt to have a resolution, and members of the public, we meet every third Wednesday of the month. If, if you would like to show support for permitting EMBs in more zoning districts, I think it's June, let me get the actual confirmed date of the next meeting. It would be June 18th, which is our next planning commission meeting, same time, same place, so 7 p.m. The packet will be available on the city's website under the agenda center for the planning commission. And you'd be more than welcome to leave public comments, but also feel free to attend anytime because, it's nice to see members of the public come to these meetings, 7 p.m. So ultimately, depending on what the zoning board of appeals decides, we are already looking at that ordinance again, and not that the planning commission really wants to dive super deep into it, but if there's a call by the community, then ultimately they we'll have to consider it. So
Well, thank you for that. And I certainly respect the decision. I know that a lot of thought went into it. But so my Wi-Fi is not working on my laptop. Could you just refresh my memory? What other permitted uses are what other uses are permitted in R1?
yes, let me okay.
I mean, outside of residential.
Yeah, so parks are permitted. I can also go over the special uses. I do. Oh wait, is it? Oh, I didn't plug my computer. No, that's
Speaking of needing to get into the 21st century, right? It happens.
I'll put this computer in my charger.
Oh. You're plugged in, everything?
Well, while that's happening, kind of my point is, if we're seeing this now, could we see it from other permitted uses in the area.
It's important for the record so that we don't have the computer die. So.
Yeah, thank you.
Begin.
Yes, hopefully everybody can see that. So this is the R1 zoning district. So it has the list of permitted uses, again, primarily residential, but parks are permitted by right. Schools are special uses. Religious institutions are also special uses. So are municipal, county, regional, and state services. Bread and breakfasts are special uses. Farmers markets are accessory. Garage sales are accessory. Essential services are primary, communication devices and alternative energy are accessory. And then community gardens are primary. And then beyond that, that's the extent of what is permitted in this district.
And having special use privilege doesn't give them variance from the,
No, and granted, I don't know how long, truthfully, I don't know how long this church has been here. I mean, we can get, I don't know, somebody from the congregation. I'm sorry? Yes. How long?
Been 1926 it was built.
Okay, okay, okay. Okay, okay. So since 1926, my assumption is that the zoning ordinance didn't even have it as a special use. It's been 99 years.
Right.
So, yeah, so it probably, the concept of a special use probably wasn't very extensive in the ordinance at that time.
Mm.
I know we had one, but it was tiny. So,
and the fact that they were there before the zoning made it R1 doesn't give them any kind of grandfather.
I mean, ultimately, the use is, even though it's a special use, it's still a use that is allowed in that district. So like, let's say, even though they changed to the R1 zoning district, that doesn't change the fact that the church isn't allowed to be there. And even if the zoning ordinance changed where it just didn't permit religious institutions whatsoever, they'd be allowed to exist as a legal nonconformity.
So if the sign were an existing nonconformity, we wouldn't necessarily be having this conversation if it was already an EMB.
Yeah.
But since the change is being made to an EMB, we're having this conversation.
Sorry, there's an existing EMB there.
No,
now?
I said if there was.
Oh, okay.
If
okay.
there was. No, there is not.
Okay.
There's not an existing EMB that I know of in R1.
Huh.
Comments, questions? I've been doing a lot of talking. So anyone else want to jump in?
Great job. Oh, this is difficult. We did have, I believe, just one very similar, almost identical request. And I'm glad to hear that the Planning Commission is still talking about electronic message signs, because I do expect and would guess that the technology is changing a lot, and that there are now products out there that don't cause the same glare and nuisance issues that a lot of the other electronic, the typical sign you'd think of comes to mind. Remember sir, sorry, I forgot your name, from Jim. You said it was a 0 or a 0.03 foot candle measured from, okay, okay. 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 Is there a specific type of product or term for a low intensity electronic message sign, or no?
So, because there's obviously other manufacturers out there that don't have a product where you can actually control brightness of it. With this is a thick sign built here in the United States, you can control brightness, you can bring it down, set it for what it is at night. So, and obviously what you want to do anyhow, that sign's already programmed to dim itself down as it gets darker. Because if it's too bright, you'll never read it. So when you're driving down the road and you see an electronic message center, but you can't read at night because it doesn't have that sensor in it, or they have the brightness at the wrong set. So it's actually designed to dim itself down so you can read it.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. And everyone, thank you for all the other information you've provided. I think we've heard everything we could possibly ask for about illumination levels, hours that it'll be displayed. So I appreciate all that. I think our challenge is, as our purview is very narrow, and as both Josh and Jake mentioned, for any variance requests, we have to find that it meets all 6 standards listed in the ordinance. The first of which is that the need for the variance has to be due to some unique circumstance of the property itself that makes that specific requirement a hardship for that particular property. And it doesn't have to be unique citywide, but it has to be something that makes that requirement more burdensome in that particular case. It shouldn't be something that applies to all similarly situated properties subject to the same requirement. We would need to find that there's something about the property itself that would warrant approval that any other church or non-residential use in the same, or let me rephrase it, that there's some rationale for approval that doesn't apply to other non-residential uses that are subject to the same requirements. If that is the case, then it's kind of a matter of city policy and ordinance and the ordinance. And in other words, if it's a hardship that applies more universally, then the appropriate thing to do is to change the ordinance. And I think,
Which is not something we can do.
which is not something,
unfortunately. Go ahead and finish your thought, please.
I think that about sums it up. I mean, our job is to find that a requirement that applies to someone's property that in other words, the ordinance is prohibiting someone from doing something with their property that otherwise similarly situated property owners are allowed to do. But in this case, no other non-residential properties in the R1 district are allowed to have an electronic message sign. And I'm racking my brain. I can't think of a basis to say yes here where we'd apply different rationale if any other church in the R1 district came before us or any other non-residential use. So I empathize, but I think given the purview of what we do and the criteria we have to work with, I'm kind of hard pressed for myself to vote yes, or to be able to make findings of fact to support approval.
To whom? Tim?
Me? Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, Mike. Yeah. Adams and Josh, you might be able to get there faster than me.
What's the Adams in Washington? Wait, I'm sorry, what was that? Oh, okay.
Oh, I thought you said Washington and Adams.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
right here.
That,
Okay.
I, yeah, I think, and incidentally, they may be the ones who asked for a variance in 23. They're in a commercial district.
It does look like though they've had an EMB since 2009.
Oh, okay.
And so I think cause I know that we had I think it was one or two in the city, like one or two properties in the city that actually had an EMB that was a legal nonconformity. So they were,
So it would have been before the ordinance changed.
yes,
Okay,
yes,
because this came up when we had this conversation back in December as well. It was before your time, but that was when it came up.
yeah.
That property's in, is it neighborhood,
That's neighborhood corridor, I believe.
neighborhood corridor?
So it's neighborhood corridor, and those are permitted in neighborhood corridor?
They
no?
are.
Okay.
So it's no longer a legal nonconformity. It's just a legal sign. Well, actually, I'd have to look at the specs. I can't make that determination unless I knew like all the specs and details.
Okay.
But you know, basically what they were doing before, unless they altered the sign, they would be permitted to do, you know, what they've been doing since at least 2009.
Yep. Okay. Does that answer make sense to you? No?
It's, that church is in a different zoning district.
Yeah, it's a neighborhood corridor where,
Yeah.
as far as the EMBs are permitted uses.
They're in the
In neighborhood
light
corridor.
pink colored district.
Yeah,
I
right
believe.
here. The Seventh Day Adventist, right behind Second Baptist.
All right, so we'll look at one more because I definitely want all of this stuff brought to light. And so this is kind of what we're getting at here is if this is repeatedly happening and there are interests sort of stretching beyond, into an entire neighborhood or a particular type of uses. I think this is great fact finding for Josh and the rest of the staff. If signage is being reviewed as a city, these are the kind of things that need to be considered. So thank you. Okay, well, I've exhausted kind of what, just echoing your point, Mike. This is quite a challenge, and unfortunately, we can't just sort of change the ordinance here in this room, but we are asked to sort of interpret a variance based on request based on the information that we're provided.
Do we ever raise the option to ask applicants if they'd like to postpone in light of absences?
We have done that before,
So,
and so in the face of absences from this body.
yeah, and the number of votes needed for approval.
I mean, no, we've never done that before.
Okay.
As far as I know, I mean, we have quorum, and so I think there's been postponements for other reasons. Maybe applicants wanted to go back and redo their request. I think we've done that before, but that is usually at the purview of those requesting the variance.
Okay. Okay. I only
State your case. Yeah.
Yeah,
Your point,
I only
please.
bring it up because as we're a 5-member board,
As of right
I see
now,
you.
yes.
or I
Give me
mean,
2 seconds.
so we are a 5-member board, not a 7.
Yeah.
Okay. And to approve anything, then there needs to be 3 votes in the affirmative.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so given that there's only 3 of us, all of us would need to vote yes to approve.
Correct.
If there were, if there were 5, then in a sense there would be, more odds or more votes. So, while it may not change the outcome, I'm only bringing up the possibility that if postponing, but and usually the way I see this play out is sometimes applicants may make that request if they're okay with waiting to another night just for a night when there's more board members available and more people who could vote. But sorry if that's not something we usually do.
No, that's it. That's something we had. I don't think it's ever been requested of
Okay.
this board or even brought up. So I'm trying to so I see a lot of sea of hands here. I'm just trying to make sense of this and make sure everybody has a chance to speak. So as the applicant, you had your hand up. Is there something you'd like to state?
Yeah, I
mean, that's a ruling I haven't heard before. So
If the zoning board of appeals doesn't ultimately want to make an official approval or denial motion, what I would suggest then is some type of a postponement motion where you have a finding that staff bring forward a memorandum to the planning commission, to have them consider where EMBs are permitted or reconsider. That way we can have something official from, the zoning board of appeals, and I don't know.
I think we can do both things separately. We could make a resolution encouraging the planning commission to continue looking at ordinance changes. I think the best we can do as far as postponement would just to be postponed until we can have all membership in attendance. Which means waiting longer, but and again, sorry if this is something we don't usually do, but.
But in that case, the ordinance is still going to be what it is.
Oh, sure. So, sorry about that. Sorry.
So, but the ordinance is still going to be the same, right? If we had all 5 of us here or not. And so what wasn't, as a Gary, I think what he was requesting is to attend the zoning board meetings and see what they can get changes in that from, if I'm understanding.
it wouldn't be a future ZBA meeting. It's a planning.
No,
commission
right.
meeting. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Then he might not have to come to us,
Yeah.
this board.
And that could happen regardless of how we vote and separately
Yeah.
from how we vote. As I mentioned, based on my inclination is to vote no, and I would make a motion to that effect. Again, postponing may not change the outcome. Those are my comments.
But, in the event, if the ordinance changed in the future, then they could just build the sign,
Right.
regardless of how we voted.
Mhm.
Got a hand up here.
Go ahead.
What we're actually.
Oh, to be clear, we do have full quorum. I just want to make sure that I'm not challenging you. I just want to make sure the record states that we are operating legally. But thank you. Please.
Basically, I'm here to say, basically, they could make the ultimate decision, make a recommendation, probably won't. Not you say, but the possibility that the planning commission can engage in this conversation, and would then make a decision and deliberate further the entire community. Because actually, you got multiple churches, residential. I'm not a squeal, but that's not my job. That's what you say. But what happens is the issue probably may come back. And if it comes back, it's not a field issue. It's a planning commission issue.
Mhm.
The deliberation going to take place to really address. I heard you mention, Commissioner Mike, that basically it's a residential community and see no need for variance in your deliberation. Well, the issue is these churches were here before people were born to live on. So I don't know how you're going to do a rezoning, and that's not your issue. Rezoning and not include these churches. But they were here way before I was. And so I'm saying that whoever drew the map, and let me just say, I was part of some of the rezoning in the city of Tulane. And I was troubled by it then, because it was not inclusive of the churches and other organizations that existed that had housing in the community. It did not have outreach for their input, because people wanted to build. It is an organized effort, a political elected official, to make it a residential community. But you can't reborn the church that existed already, particularly this one, that's been there since 1920. I mean, you cannot reverse that. So when you talk about the fact that it was a residential community by zoning of this planning commission, but not by history. History should be gauged in this discussion. I don't know we're going to do that history, because it overskipped existing structures in that community. Now, I don't know, Ray Charles, don't, he can't testify. But if you missed all those churches, you need somebody to redo the process of it, because about 7 churches in residential community. I can name 7 off my hand. I don't know if they passed it, pray for me tonight. But, so I'm not squealing, but I know 7 in just 3 blocks. So I don't know how you missed the other 4 or 5 in the neighborhood. And that's part, Mike, what you were saying, Commissioner Mike. It's a residential community by birth of the planning commission. Those houses of worship was there before the last consultants came in and designed this master plan of making a residential community. Unless they're going to buy all the churches. Thank you. But I hope in the deliberation it goes back to the planning commission. This input, even if it comes back to you on the appeal, let me just say that we are appealing people. So if the planning commission don't come to the appeal, we'll be back here for stage 2. I mean, that's what the process is all about. And then at that time, you may have a larger turnout in terms of the various commissioners not here. And we hope they have a fair share. The issue is, let me just explain, because part of it you did not explain to, if you don't table this, and you don't refer to planning commission, the only one can overturn this body. So that's why we don't need it. You said you're not ready. Don't tune us out. I was saying, it's not your fault. I want to be fair. This is not your fault. It's someone who did not include the places of worship, that included a residential community. I don't want to talk about all the political history. That was politics to make our community all the residential community, not include what existed right here. History, way forward.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. We really appreciate it. Okay.
So Josh, so the planning commission, there is still ongoing active discussion about lighting standards.
Yes,
right?
So they will be actively talking about specifically sign illumination at the next meeting.
Okay.
Will that include EMBs, a discussion of EMB?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me just double check. I think it's June 18th.
If you all want those dates, Josh will be here after the meeting too. He
I
can give
will.
everybody the date.
Yeah, it'll be June 18th. Yes. Yes, it'll be June 18th at 7 p.m. In the same building. So. So, with the planning commission, what you would be able to do is, the planning commission has 2 public comments. So kind of like how you'll see on our agenda packet, we have 2 public comments. We just happen to have a public hearing, which is why, there was that 3rd public comment, because every public hearing has a public comment period. So ultimately, at the beginning of the meeting, there'll be a public comment period, and at the end of the meeting, there'll be a public comment period. Then you would be able to come and, voice your concerns, voice your comments to the planning commission regarding the EMBs specifically. So, so it'd be kind of similar to here. It's just like during the public comment itself, that's when you'd be able to make those comments.
So,
I'm sorry. We're still in the preliminary discussions. It's likely that specifically we're working mostly on lighting, but because sign illumination includes the lighting, we started touching on that a little bit last meeting. So this will probably be more of like, hey, here's like proposed language, and then more asking the planning commission, what do you think? It's likely that the planning commission will be reviewing this language for the next couple of months. And then going from there, ideally by August, September, we'll then be able to bring it before the city council. And then the city council will have 2 readings. They will also have their public comments as well. So you'll be able to make public comment during those city council meetings.
So to restate that real quick, the conversations that are having with planning commission are not related specifically to this variance request, right? This is about signage and illumination more broadly.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, so I actually think I think this is a great conversation, but I want to make sure we're staying sort of grounded in the variance that's in front of us right now. And Josh is your representative for the city, and any questions you have for him or the planning department more broadly, that's what he's there to answer. So I want to be mindful of everyone's time for being here, and obviously all the effort that everybody's put into being here.
So as much as I empathize with all the comments made tonight and would like to vote with my heart, but not my restrictions here, I motion that we deny the variance request due to the following findings: that the enforcement of this will not pose practical difficulties to the applicant, and the variance is not necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right, and the allowance of the variance will not result in substantial justice being done under S 122-370B. And the granting of the variance is not the minimum variance necessary to make possible reasonable use of the land, buildings, or structures.
Support?
Support.
Okay. We can discuss, even though there's been a motion and second, but just
I'm gonna
2 seconds, but go
2
ahead.
seconds.
No. We have a motion, we have a second, but
Yes.
we can still discuss as a group, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure. And so I would seriously like to make, I know we've done this once before, but I think it's really important that that EMBs be really looked at by the planning commissioner, whoever is meeting, and I encourage everyone in this room to come and talk about how important you think that is. Because again, we're when we start to see a pattern, I start to wonder why that is. And so I would love to see that discussion going forward. And I don't know if that means we make we make our decision, and then there's an added motion to write another memo to planning commission.
Would you like to add like a friendly amendment? Or
I think we could do it as separate.
Yeah, we'll just do it as separate.
okay. All right.
So we
So in
have a
that-
motion, we have a second.
All right. Board member Albers.
I vote aye.
Board member Arbach,
Yes.
and then board member Roach.
Aye.
All right. So the application has officially been denied. I don't know if somebody would like to introduce a motion.
Yeah, I would like to introduce a motion to, you might have to help me more elegantly word this, but I understand that and feel free to anyone who wants to chime in, help me, but I know we've already made our intentions clear with planning commission that this should be reviewed. And if there's going to be discussions about lighting and signage in the months to come, that EMBs and their permitted use in residential areas be reviewed.
Especially considering the time that it's on, the intensity that it's on, and the location of it. You can't even see it from most places because it's right next to this
Right.
building.
And again, I understand our friends at Planning Commission and everybody at the city they do their homework when it comes to these things, but just making sure that we have kind of all the facts about illumination, but also how they can be used, and that they can be controlled remotely. These are things that it may come to light, and I just think it deserves sort of a fresh look, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Nope.
Okay.
Support, if that's
We have a well, I made the motion, so and then we have support from Mike.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we need to do a roll call vote or
You can, but I don't think you need to.
Okay.
Yeah.
all those in
Um,
favor?
yeah.
Aye.
So basically, for record's sake, this will show up kind of in the minutes as like motion to request the planning commission review EMBs, and then I can, write a memo and email it to you all like individually, and then just give me the thumbs up, and then from there I will introduce that to the planning commission and reintroduce those talks.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Thank you.
Okay.
Mhm.
Great.
Okay, well, I don't see any more new business on here. So
Yeah.
we can close that portion of the meeting and I will seek a motion. Actually, Josh, is there any new business that you need from us?
Nope. Next thing would just be public comment.
Oh, yeah, another public comment. So we're on phase 2 of public comment. If anyone else wants to say any more on, this is absent of the variance. This is just public comment in general. Okay. So I'll seek a motion to open the meeting to public comment.
A motion to open public comment.
We have a motion. We have a support. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. I think we need a motion to close.
Okay. Motion to close the public hearing if there's no one online.
Yeah, is there anyone online? Okay,
I
Okay.
second.
we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. Okay, next agenda item is adjournment.
I motion to adjourn the ZBA meeting of, what's today's date is,
June 2nd, 2025.
thank you.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys got a tough job. Yeah.
And again,
It was tough tonight.
Yeah, yeah.
It was,
please come to planning commission meeting on June 8th.